Alright, welcome to Just Morpheus Gaming. I was looking to give an update on Dwarf Fortress. I am a little abashed to admit that it's been like a month since I played Dwarf Fortress or even recorded that video and have yet to get it edited and processed. The one thing I wanted to do potentially was like Star Rupture. I have my main channel and I started a different game. I mean, I do like Dwarf Fortress and I do want to get back to it. And the one thing that I was going to cover for the main update that's probably going to be a little technical, or it's really behind the scenes of some of like how do I do the actual generation in particular. Or with Dwarf Fortress, it was very time consuming to do. And I'd like to kind of showcase how it works. So what I was doing was taking like my video file to be edited, and the audio that comes with this video strip isn't great, so I have to pre-cut it out and balance it. So here on the next to it, I have, in this case, the game audio and then my microphone. So with Dwarf Fortress, it's kind of a slower game, and there's parts of it that are slow. I can accelerate it. I played with it what are good like acceleration times, because if I play it at 10x, too much happens in the background to be seen, and if I do it at like 2x, it's kind of slow still. It depends. There's kind of like a perfect medium, and it's not going to be one size fits all. Because for Dwarf Fortress, I seem to be able to easily get away with 4x cut speed acceleration. But like here, there's a decent chunk of me not talking and background stuff happening. There's some of it's, especially how I can do like I pre-build the buildings and just don't talk for a little bit, and then I can accelerate it and make it look all nice. But it takes time. So what I was doing is basically taking all three strips, cutting it, and then going over here, cutting it again, and then adding retiming keys to these. So if I add retiming keys and then go into strip, retiming, and then set its speed, I can be like 400% and it'll accelerate it down. And same with all three of these strips, add retiming key, retiming, set speed, 400. And then, or in this case, this is my game audio, so I want to, or not my game audio, my vocal, and I just want to mute it entirely. This one, add retiming key, strip, and retiming, so retiming speed, 400. Once all of those are nicely shrunk, I can just press backspace on my keyboard and that shrinks down nicely. And then I kind of proceed to do it to the next one, and then the next one, and the next one. And the more cuts I can make, the better. Some of it's also like that's a little blip of potential noise that I'd want to cut from the audio channel. So this gives me a chance to be able to do some editing. Like I'm not sure what these little noises are because it could be background noise that I can cut out at that point. But ultimately there's a lot of cuts to do to this. As an example, if I kind of undo this and just load the last video I did, this too. Here is the like 1,000 cuts that it took to do that, and it just took a lot of time. For how much I love playing Dwarf Fortress, it's like, yeah, I play for half an hour and it turns into like an 8-hour day of doing video editing. And the more I do it, the better I get at being able to create a quality product, or it is very boring or mind numbing work. So being a software engineer, I was like, I have to programmatically be able to like look for those low spots and make these cuts and be able to chew through this, because just going through and making all those cuts and identifying the low spots takes me a long time. Yet alone selecting the individual ones and then shrinking them down. So the thing that I did was automated it. So at this point, if I load in my like new video clip, just kind of reset this, disconnect, drop, game audio. My code is kind of in a shoddy spot. Like if I put my mic channel in the bottom and my game audio on the top, my code doesn't work as expected. But I've wrote it in a way that allows it to be a plugin, so I can pre-install it and I don't have to do this step every time we're going back to it. It allows other people to use it without having to do janky stuff like this. But it's still a work in progress. Although it's a work in progress, I've been using it for a while, and the main things, it's like I can always improve my code. I want to make it asynchronous so it doesn't tie up the UI. I want to do one where it's combined so I don't actually have to go through and manually do some of the shrinks. But I will cover that in just a second. So this code, if I just paste it in there and say run, gives me this speed up control. And this is going to take a little bit, so I will kind of quiet off here. It'll probably take about 4, maybe 5 minutes to do the, well, this is a 36-minute video. I'm curious what this will take. But if I just say speed up controls, make my cuts, there's a minimum trigger threshold where if I want it to go up the peak before triggering, and then I want to call it good all the way until the end, and then which point I need to have like the drop off. So the threshold is what sets that. So that way I can, little bumps aren't going to affect it, but it's actually going to be the big bumps that'll pick up. I want some frames before it and some frames after it, because if I'm actually triggering on the sound, I probably want to trigger, half a second before that, and probably once the speaking ends, I probably want half a second after that, bare minimum. Otherwise, the speech is going to be clipped. So once again, these are a little bit, I can toggle them and play with them. At 60 frames a second, depends really what I'm capturing at, because I don't need to be capturing this at 60 frames a second, but I am. So either way, 15 frames beforehand, 10 frames afterhand, and then I wanted a way to be able to have like a minimum cut, because if I'm in the middle of a sentence and it's only like a quarter of a second between my words, I don't want it to cut and potentially shrink, because but if it's like 2 seconds or 10 seconds, I do. What's the minimum threshold? I wanted 120 frames at 60 frames a second. That gives you 2 seconds. If I take a second, pause, and a single second to pause in a sentence, it won't automatically cut it. But if I do like a 3-second pause, it will. But if I just say go, this will take a little bit, and it kind of ties up the UI here too. There it kicks off, 1%, 2%, and it'll just chew through this. What used to take me hours to do, I can now does itself in about 5 minutes. All right. With that being said, it would have come back and said it didn't find any cuts, but it's actually doing the work still. Should free up here in a minute when this frame goes away. And I need a better way to track the updating the main loop from, because it just switched from doing all the analysis and now it's going through and doing the cutting. But the analysis is the long leg. In fact, it's hard to make a meter that's like, how long do I think it's done? If the first chunk, I have to assume to take half the time. I need to take that into consideration if I give a progress bar. Any second, this should just show with a bunch of cuts. One thing is I'm a little leery to do while recording. If I click, it'll give me like the spinny, and Windows will be like, it's non-responsive. Do you want to wait for it? I mean, it hangs the main thread to that point. I have looked to be able to make it like asynchronous or be able to put it in the bar to the bottom. And if you just say, wait, there's nothing wrong with telling it to wait either. But yeah, there it goes. That would have taken me hours to do. And it is all done for me. So, and as an example of how to kind of further use this tool, there's some parts where like I don't accelerate. Like here's a great candidate for acceleration. So now I can just select this chunk and say speed up controls, shrink strips. So one of the things I was indicating earlier, if I shrink it too much, Dwarf Fortress works great at 4x. What Magic the Gathering, if it's a slow game, I can shrink it to 2x. And I can just set it on the fly, if you will. But yeah, shrink to 2x or 4x, and it automatically did the adding the retiming keys, muting the channel, all the work for me. So now it's just a matter of going through and shrinking the individual steps. And the next step for like updating this code is potentially adding a hotkey, because I should just be able to select this chunk and then press like Control DF and it'll automatically shrink and for me. Because I can wire it into a hotkey. I think would be the easiest way to, I guess, further accelerate the process of processing my videos. Because then I still have to listen to it, make sure that these like little blips, because even though I can accelerate this chunk and this chunk, I need to almost listen to this chunk to see if I want to accelerate it too, because I can probably accelerate all these. If I select a chunk of code or multiple blocks like that, my code doesn't handle it. So I mean, there's parts for potential improvement for sure. That's always more things to do than time to do them. But I have used this actually quite a bit now to greatly accelerate processing videos. And yeah, that being said, I'm going to probably call it there. Look to finish processing this video and get it published, but I figured I'd kind of give the behind the scenes there of the plugin I mentioned to help accelerate this.